had such a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. The weather was just gorgeous. And Lord, we just ask you to bless all of those service people's families that have some been in pain over this weekend with their loss of their parents and grandparents and current soldiers and first responders and everybody who we care about so much that have worked so hard for this great nation of ours, and that they have given us the opportunity and the freedom to be able to meet together each week and be able to share things of interest that everybody should be aware of. So Lord, we ask you to bless the evening tonight with our fuels manager, Kevin, and our president of our committee, Alan, and the presentation they're about to make. And Lord, we just ask you to be with all of us as we do our questions and answers about firewising our homes. And we ask you this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Okay, and we have the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, you know, I work best in crisis mode. So last Friday, when I sent out the Payson Tea Party postings, I had this meeting on the agenda. And since then, I have 7 more agenda. So, because I invite all these people and sometimes they don't get back right away. So, coming up in the next number of weeks, we have on June the 8th, well, first off, before I do the calendar, let's see, I saw Jim Ferris was here. He is one of our town councilors. Is he still out playing in the sand? Okay. So he's here. And Barbara Underwood is here. She's on the town council and the school board, back there in the back row. So welcome, Barb. I'm glad you came tonight. And do we have any other dignitaries? Do we have any new people here for the first time? Nope. Okay. Oh, we do have some people for the first time. And what is your name?
Tom Martell.
Tom?
I'm with her.
Oh, with Lori Martell. Lori's been coming. Hi, Tom. Good to have you here tonight. Okay, great. So anyhow, and who is that in the blue shirt with the blonde hair?
Sue Little.
Oh, and Sue Little. Okay, great. Glad to have you here, Sue.
She's the president of the gun club.
Oh, president of the gun club. I have not met you. So, nice to meet you. I'm Shirley Dye, president of this fine establishment. So anyhow, and we have board members here. We have Frank Pacino and Brad Cole and Connie, our treasurer, standing back there. By the way, did you get your 50-50 tickets? So the reason we sell 50-50 tickets, and I don't have mine yet, is because for the wonderful opportunity to use this great Ponderosa Bible Church facility, we have Shauna up there, who is our technical person who, you know, when we have videos or PowerPoints or all that, she can throw them up on the screen and set up all the mics and all that stuff. So we do donate to the church for her services and the church allowing us to be here. So we raise money every week. So buy those 50-50 tickets and we'll have enough money to donate to the church each week. Okay? So there's Jim Ferris, our town councilor, besides Barbara Underwood. Okay, he came in late. All right, so are there any other board members here? Oh, Pam back there, Pam Jackson. Oh, and Jim is a board member too. Yeah, sorry. Okay. All right, so coming up we have, you know, all of the state officers are up for re-election in 2022. So that is the governor, the attorney general, the secretary of state, which is like the attorney general. Did I just say attorney general?
Lieutenant governor.
like a lieutenant governor.
Looked like a lieutenant governor, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, Secretary of State is equivalent to other states' lieutenant governors. They are the ones that are in line next if the governor steps down for some reason. We have the superintendent of public instruction statewide. We have the state treasurer. We have the mine inspector. Who else am I missing? Anyhow, it's a lot of,
Commission?
and some of the corporation commission people. I think it's 2 that are up this time, because there were 3 up last time. Yeah, so all those state things. Plus, we have all of our state representatives and senators, and we have candidates for U.S. Senate to take Mark Kelly's place, because he's up for re-election. So we have one of those candidates for Arizona Attorney General that I'm hearing very good things about, but there's probably going to be way more than him just, campaigning. So we will get everybody up here at some point. But Andy Gould is running for Arizona Attorney General because Mark Brnovich is termed out. Okay? So that's on June 8th. Then on June 15th, we have Jim Lehman, who is running for Arizona U.S. Senator to replace Mark Kelly. And there's a lot of people running for that Senate seat too. But these guys are on top of things. Then on the 22nd, we have Marissa Hamilton. Now, Marissa came up about 3 years ago, and she was talking about outreaching to young people, and she was Phoenix Councilman Sal DeCicio's assistant, so she knows a lot about Phoenix, and she's not working for him anymore, I guess. I don't know whether he got termed out or not. This is not Maricopa County supervisors, this is Phoenix City Council. So she's worked on them. She's going to come up and recap all of the bills that were passed and which ones failed. And you heard that Ducey vetoed 22 bills on Friday as a warning, I guess, that we better support his budget or else he will veto the rest of them that are going to be brought up. So anyhow, we'll see. And then on the 29th, we have Lori Martinez, and she's with the Arizona Hispanic Assembly, and she was Latinos for Trump for the last election. And we have 2 gals here. Priscilla, are you here tonight? Or Elvia? They're not here tonight. They usually come. They are doing an outreach to Hispanics in this whole area of northern Arizona. So Lori Martinez is coming up to bring them all kinds of great literature and all this stuff. And then on July the 6th, we have Patrick Wood. Patrick came about 6 or 8 years ago, and he talks all about the Trilateral Commission, the Council of Foreign Relations, and the Deep State, and all that good stuff. So he did a DVD called Technocracy Rising. It's about 10 years old. Any of you here to see that one? Do you remember it? Everybody went, whoa, after we saw it. So anyhow, he's coming. Then we also have running, Walt Blackman is stepping down from being state legislature for LD6 to run for Congressional District 1 because he's up in Snowflake. And as of now, Snowflake is in Congressional District 1. And that Democrat Tom O'Halloran there, that's the yes man for Nancy Pelosi. So here comes another one of our board members, April, right there. Okay. So anyhow, so there's a Dave Marshall is going to run for that other seat besides Brenda Barton. So there are 2 representatives. And then, of course, our Senator, Wendy Rogers. Wendy Rogers is going to run again for Senate. So anyhow, that's our LD6 team. There's supposed to be somebody from Sedona also maybe going to run for LD6. So we'll see how that all plays out. Yes?
Any word if Sylvia Allen's going to try to come back?
Have you heard anything about that, Darlene? If Sylvia's going to try and run for Senate again? I have not heard anything about that. However, you know, we need a really good, strong candidate for superintendent of public instruction, and she was the chairman of the Senate Education Committee. So that's something I know that she has been asked about running. I don't know whether she is going to or not. We'll see. So anyhow, so are you still working for Dave Marshall as well as working for Walt Blackman?
I never did work for Dave Marshall.
I know, but are you going to?
No.
No, okay. So anyhow, and then Walt Blackman is a wonderful speaker, so we will be having him here also, so we'll fill up.
What date?
I don't have a date for either Walt or for Dave Marshall yet. So I've sent out a gazillion emails for speakers, and they're, coming in now. So we'll see who all we can get. We have a gentleman here in town that wants to speak on education, and so he's going to be up here maybe in July also. So we'll see how it goes. So anyhow, let me run out and see how Kevin and Alan are doing, because they are our program tonight. So hang on.
Huh? Oh, that's pretty.
It is nice.
Who wants to go first?
Really want a nice yarn there.
Okay. Oh, well, come on, I'll introduce you.
Lion brand.
Okay, so you remember over the last 6 or 8 years, I can't remember for sure, we had a Payson Firewise committee, and we were working with Toby Waugh, who was the fire captain at the time, about getting a Firewise ordinance in town, and everybody kind of was looking at, well, the fire chief was looking at the WUI code and doing the whole WUI code thing, which is not only for Firewising your properties, but building materials and all of that kind of stuff too. So anyhow, after the 3rd try, we finally got a Firewise ordinance passed right around last July, so a year ago. And it is one that is specific toward getting your property Firewised. And we can't actually use that term Firewise for our for any of our literature, so we are now the Payson Fire Adaptive Community, because we have a Payson Fire Adaptive Community ordinance, okay? And we wanted something with a little bit of teeth in, but we don't want to be the property police, so to speak, and that's Kevin's job. So, about a year and a half ago, when Toby Waugh retired, the fire department, hired a new fuels manager specifically to take care of all of these things. So Kevin McCully here is going to tell you what he's been doing since he came on board and how he is working with the new committee, the Fire Adaptive Community Committee, is working with him actually. We work under him. So here he is.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Alan is the head of the Fire Adaptive Community Committee. We just call it PFAC, Payson Fire Adaptive Community Committee. It's easier. I get tongue-tied the other way. I was hired 2 years ago to help out with the fuels condition here in Payson, and actually the committee was part of the testing process So they helped me get hired, which I appreciate. Anyway, I had 30 years in the fire service before I came here. I ran a couple different vegetation management programs in California. So nobody has tomatoes, right? So, but I also rode on a fire engine most of my career and that type of thing. So, you know, we've seen what wildland fires can do, and you know, obviously Payson has a lot of overgrown vegetation here that's pretty flammable. So that's kind of the elephant. We're trying to take one bite at a time and deal with that and try and, you know, mitigate some of that hazardous fuels. In the overall objective of it is to make it easier for the firefighters to fight a fire if we get one, right? Kind of the fire adaptive community idea is a nationwide program, and the idea is that fire is going to happen. You know, you can't prevent all fires. They're going to happen, and the best that you can do is set yourself up so when they do happen, it doesn't wipe out the whole town, or, you know, hopefully not burn down your house, right? And you can do some things to mitigate that risk. In Payson, we live in the forest, so there's obviously some risk that just goes along with that. And the only way to mitigate 100% of the risk would be to have concrete and 20 miles in every direction, and that's not why we live here. So from that point, everything from that point on is a mitigation of risk. And that's kind of how we look at the vegetation code and thinning out the vegetation around Payson. So that if we do have a fire, the firefighters will have a chance. Yes, sir.
I had a question. We do an awful lot with our own place, keep it fire-wise. Who do we have to be in touch with that is city property, that is not fire-wise now, and never had been? Who do we have to get in?
Me, I guess. So, yeah, I am aware that there's a bunch of town properties that need to be mitigated. Some of it has been mitigated in the past on some grants. And one of the problems with, well, I guess it's a problem, but once they give you the grant money to mitigate a property, then they don't want to keep giving you money to maintain that property. So they won't give you the grant again for the same property. So the town has several properties that have been mitigated in the past, but now have grown back. And now we have to look at spending money out of town funds to maintain them. So obviously that costs money, and you just need to put the money in the right place to get it done, I guess, ultimately, if that makes sense. But we are working on that. Chief Staub and I have been working together, trying to come up with a plan to work on those properties. So one of the plans, it's going to be a small part of it, but Flagstaff Fire has a fire crew, and they do mitigation work. What they do is in the wintertime, they'll do mitigation work around the town, and then in the summer times they go out and fight fires. But as part of their training program, they're going to come down probably within the next month and do probably a couple of acres of town property for us, which doesn't cost us anything, which is nice. But you know, we just have to take it one piece at a time.
Okay, can we hold the questions then, like we usually do, until after they do their presentations, and then we'll get more into Q&A?
Well, I think I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the background of the fuel mitigation program here. We look at grants, and we've gotten over $330,000 worth of grants so far, and I have to put in for another one this coming Friday, so hopefully we'll get that one too. So we're getting some funding from the state and the federal government to to do mitigation on private properties around town. So we are working pretty diligently on that. So I'll just say a little bit about the sim table that I brought. It was developed by a gentleman from New Mexico. His brother happens to live here in Payson, and convinced him to donate one to our fire department, which is very, very nice. I think they're like $20,000 or something. They're very expensive. So we're very fortunate to get that system. And what it is it's a training tool really for firefighters. In the old days, when Alan and I were younger, they used to actually use sand, and they would make mountains out of the sand, and the fire lines would be red string, and they'd have little fire engines in the sand that you moved around and did a scenario with how to put out a vegetation fire that way. Well, this is way super high tech, way better than that. It actually takes the fuels that Forest Service has done fuel modeling for most of the United States. And so each little square, they assign a fuel value to that has a calculation value as far as what kind of fuel is there, whether it's ponderosas or sumac, or, well, not too many sumacs around here, but manzanita, that kind of stuff. So each little square has a value to it, and I can show you that when we go out there. But then it runs that simulation of the fire through that based on the wind and the terrain and all that, and you kind of get a pretty good realistic view of what the fire potentially could do. So it has you can put air taker drops in, you can put dozer lines in, you can assign crews to part of the one of the fire lines, and the neat thing about that is it's real time, so the amount of work that the crew can do is in proportion to how fast the timeline's actually going. So one of the problems incident commanders have with wildland fires is predicting out ahead of it enough to get resources out ahead of it and to manage it. And so this gives you kind of a good feel for how far ahead you have to be thinking to deal with that fire. So I'll show you some of that stuff. I'll show you some differences in the fuels. What if you mitigate the fuels, what it will do to the fire. You can put in fire lines and things like that, and the fire will go around it. So I can show you a few of those kind of things. But it's a great tool and really fun to play with, and just got to keep the cats away from it.
Talk about the ordinance.
Talk about the ordinance. Okay. We like Shirley was saying, we worked really hard and put together a fuel mitigation ordinance, and we split it up so that we took away the building component side of it and just focused on the vegetation management side of it first. We also have the building component side, it's put together. We've been working on that, so we just haven't got it to the point where we can bring it in front of the town council yet. But the vegetation side of it, we figured that was a critical part of the whole fuel mitigation, so we worked on that one first. Let's see, it basically takes FireWise standards and codifies them so that within 100 feet of a structure, you have mitigation standards that are supposed to be followed. And the way the code works is we give notices. The first thing is we try to educate people, right? That's the biggest thing. We want to get people on the side, get people to understand why it's important. We want to get people to actually help us, get their neighbors to do, firewising on their properties and things. So the object of it isn't to upset people and to force it down their throat and that kind of stuff, because that doesn't work. It might work one time, but you're not going to get somebody to come back and maintain their property that way. So the objective is education. That's where the Fire Adaptive Community Committee comes in. That's kind of their primary job, is get the information out to the public and talk to people in Payson, do assessments. If you need, if you have questions about the fuels around your home, they'll come out and look at it for you and walk around the house for you and talk about things you can do to make it safer. So in the end run, the code actually is put in place for people that just either don't care or don't want to follow the rules, or because a lot of them don't live here, those kind of things. So it has a little bit more of teeth for people that live outside of Payson, and generally they don't really care about the properties too much,
It's also for vacant.
Yeah, and vacant land also. So we can force those people to pay attention, whereas before they might just throw the notices in the trash bin, but now we can make them pay attention, which is the really important tool with that code. It does address vacant parcels also. So it gives you two different ways to deal with that. You can do a 30-foot wide fuel break around the outside of the property, or you can mitigate that with the mitigation plan approved by the chief. The reason it's that way is because sometimes putting a 30-foot fuel break all the way around the property might not be the most effective way to handle that vegetation. Maybe it's better if you just do half the property on the front side where the houses are and mitigate that, but it depends. It leaves some flexibility for the situation, and I think it's a good thing for vacant parcel owners that gives them a little bit of flexibility on how they handle that fuel. Is that good? I don't want to, there's a lot to it, but that's, in simple terms, those are kind of the nuts and bolts of it.
Pass it over to Alan. Okay.
Okay, my name's Alan McKay. I was a firefighter for 33 years in San Bernardino County, in Lake Arrowhead, by the way, which was almost identical to the same terrain and type of vegetation that we have here in Payson. In 2003, we had the old fire burn through the San Bernardino Mountains, and we lost 300 structures in Lake Arrowhead. Lake Arrowhead is a fire-wise community, and it's done by the county ordinance that we had in San Bernardino County. And it's a requirement to keep your property fire-wise. We used to call it defensible space in California. That was the main term, I think, that was used throughout most of California. So I moved from California after I retired to Colorado, did a fire-wise evaluation system and program in the area that I lived in, Colorado, and then I moved here and found that we didn't have any ordinance in town or any way to address the ladder fuels that we have that need to be thinned out. So by a little bit of nudging and forcing me into a situation, Darlene and Shirley and a few other people kind of grabbed me by the lip and said, "We need your help." So I actually wanted to do that. It was something that really was on my heart. I want to live in a safe area, for one thing. And I don't want to see people lose their homes, because I've been there. My hometown almost burnt down, but it was because people had done a lot of firewizing in the Lake Arrowhead area. The area where we lost 300 structures was a pretty rural area, one way in, one way out. If we'd have put fire engines down in that canyon, we could have lost firefighters if one tree goes down across that exit. So we didn't do that. We actually kind of pulled back We did put some engines on some of that perimeter to try to keep most of that fire out of Lake Arrowhead, but that's where we lost most of the homes. The only homes that were actually saved in that area were firewised, which says a lot about firewising. You can have a fire burn through an area and structures can be completely untouched if they've done their job in clearing. So as Kevin had mentioned, our job as the committee, the Fire Adaptive Community Committee, is to educate people on what they need to do to firewise their property. And I can use the term firewise because I think everybody knows what that means for the most part. But we can't use that as part of our, we're a Fire Adaptive Committee is what we are. And we're going to be a fire adaptive community. We have to adapt to fire. Fire's going to hit us. It's inevitable. If we are prepared for that, then maybe we can withstand a major incident. One of the things that I know that could happen in this town is we could get a fire that is in a canyon below the town somewhere, and there's several canyons below this town. And that develops a lot of heat as it burns uphill. It creates a chimney effect. When that happens, you get an updraft that is immense. It can actually take unburned materials and put it up into the air. If that takes place, we can get an ember rain on Payson. What I don't want to see is the Payson Fire Department trying to chase fires throughout town, everywhere, that are spot fires, to try to put these fires out. If we have people out there doing their due diligence and clearing their property, removing the ladder fuels, and bringing down that risk, it's going to make it a lot easier, as Kevin said, for the firefighters to do their job. The other thing that I did as a firefighter, and Kevin I know did probably the same thing, is when I would go into an area that I did not know, I would drive through the area and pick and choose the houses that I could protect and the ones that I would write off. I don't want to write off any houses in Payson. So my job is to educate people on how to firewise. And I will go out and do an evaluation on your property. Shirley can do that. Darlene can do it. We have several people on our committee that can go out and do evaluations if you need them. So that's just about it for the committee.
I think Alan brought up one point that I should kind of highlight. But in Rim Country, between Christopher Coles and Pine Strawberry, any one day we probably have 18 firefighters to 22 firefighters on a good day in all of those departments put together. So it gives you kind of an idea of the resources that we would have to fight a fire. So the easier we make it on those folks, the more successful we'll be. Of course, Tonto, the National Forest, brings in people in the summer especially, so they have varying degrees of numbers of people. That might be 10 to 20 more people, but when you're talking a major wildfire, it takes a lot of equipment to address them.
Those guys don't do structure protection. They do mostly wildfire.
Here. We'll do. Okay, we'll do some Q&A, and I'll just work both sides and run. There's a question way over there, so let me go over.
I can talk about it.
Well, we have people we need to hear. Okay, Jeff. Here you go, ask a question.
How you doing, Kevin? Thanks for coming. You do a great job for the town. I have a question. This new ordinance that passed. Payson has an inordinate amount of elderly. And there's an inordinate amount of people on fixed income. There's a lot of people just simply can't afford to firewise, period. And it's a large population in our town. Is the town doing anything to assist these people? I mean, finding them doesn't seem to be a solution to me. Helping them would be a better solution.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you. That's why we're working so hard to bring the grant money to town.
How does that apply?
The grant money applies to private properties.
They have to pay up front.
You have to pay up front, and then you get reimbursed 90%.
Yeah, and that was not used much because people were not able to come up with money up front, and they got paid 90% back. That's
Yeah. I
The
mean, there's,
committee has an answer for that we're running by our
Oh.
Thursday meeting.
The committee is working on that. Actually, one of the things that I'd like to see happen is that we would have a way to address those properties that do need to be firewise and the people that can't afford them or can't do it physically. They don't have the ability. And so through maybe a donation process and also volunteers, we want to try to get people together to be able to do that in this town. We know that it's an aging population that we have here. I'm one of them. But to me, it's important that everybody understands we have to do this throughout the town. And so we're going to do as much as we can with the committee members and people that we can have as a part of our committee to volunteer and to actually donate to doing that for the people that can't afford to.
Yeah, the town of Prescott awfully is following up on just what you said, and they offer an application online at the town site. And if their property is in need, they put in why they can afford it and I need it. And you guys will evaluate that property and maybe have a volunteer. They can afford it, obviously, and I might even want a chainsaw. I'll be glad to help. If the town can provide a chipper or other stuff and volunteers show up, I think that would go a long way than any ordinance. You know, we're a generous town. We all got together, we could help each other get this done.
Yeah, there's several things that need to be addressed, and we all know it. We need a place to be able to take the stuff that we cut off of our properties. That is a major situation. We are working on that. We hope to get places that we can take your cuttings and your slash, and we can actually chip it, and then they'll haul it out for us. That's going to take place, but it's going to take a lot of work to work with the town people and to work with the people that actually do that sort of thing. And then hopefully we can get some people, this is what Shirley and I are going to work on with the rest of our committee, is to be able to address properties that need to be done, people can't afford it, and then maybe we can bring a crew out there and do the property for them. And so that's what we're working on.
That makes a lot of sense to me, because that's the majority.
Well,
Not the minority, it's the majority.
it kind of goes back, kind of what I was saying before is forcing it, forcing people to do it is not the answer. Removing the obstructions, convincing them to be on your side and convincing them that it needs to be done, that's how you get it done. So,
And if you guys organize them, what's the fun too, to help, reach out. I know a lot of guys that are retired and stuff to do, so we're glad to help.
Okay, we have another question. This is Brad.
Hi, I asked this question earlier, but I thought it'd be great if other people heard the answer as well. Some of us live against open space that might be U.S. Forest Service, private, city, county. Are we allowed to go on their land and trim that?
The private properties that surround your property are a little bit harder to work with. You almost have to work with the property owners on that. However, any place that backs up to the Forest Service land, you can actually go 100 feet from your property line into the National Forest and remove the ladder fuels and cut up the trees. You can't cut trees down, but you can remove the limbs on the lower side. You can remove the ladder fuels.
How far up should you go?
10 feet.
10 feet,
Or the lower 1/3 of the tree.
Oh, up. Okay, that was up. Okay.
or 60.
Do you have other questions? Oh, here comes Jim.
I'm loud enough, just address the evacuation issues that may come up.
Want me to-
Did you hear him?
I know there's a lot of concern on evacuations in town, and there's a lot of people that are concerned about it, working towards getting information out to people. I think, from my perspective, we have 3 ways out of town, and we're limited with that. That's all we got. So, a good thing that I can recommend in the meantime is learning more about Ready, Set, Go. That's the system that Arizona has adopted for the notification. Sign up for Everbridge. They'll call you on your landline if you have a landline. You can get as high tech as putting an app on your phone, or as low tech as having your landline. So it works really well. It's a good notification system. Talk to the Fire Adaptive Committee and get information about websites you can go to when there is a fire here.
Don't call me.
We're working towards that end also to get information out to the residents quicker and more accurately. That's all part of the whole package. There's a lot of arms to that, but practice your evacuation routes. And get scenarios, work through scenarios. What if there's a fire here? What if there's a fire there? How am I going to evacuate? Get it down in your own mind and have your own plan. In the Ready, Set, Go, I have some brochures out here. It has some checklists in there. Like when you get your plan, you let your family that doesn't live around here know the plan, so they know where to look for you. When you get ready to leave, you call somebody and tell them where you're going. There's a lot of different check boxes in there to help you get ready, but you get ready ahead of time and get all those check boxes and practice your evacuation. And then if the time comes where you have to evacuate, the idea is you don't have to panic.
How many of you actually have a go bag ready right now? That's good.
That's really good.
That's good.
All right, so Jeff had another comment here.
I don't have a go bag ready, my wife does. Governor Ducey just signed a lot of money in towards the firefighting effort, the mitigation, the fuels mitigation effort. As of April 23rd, he opened projects up to $500,000. And he released the prison population labor towards this cause as well. Is it possible our town can package up projects and apply for grants at this time before that expires?
Yeah, I'm working on one right now.
All right, good deal. And anybody that's worried about evacuation, being a 4x4 enthusiast, if you take Main Street to the end, get on Trail 414, it takes you right to Rye. And you can drive a car. So,
If the fire isn't coming from that direction.
Yeah.
I want to go down that way. Yeah.
Okay, and so here's Darlene.
Darlene?
Speaking of the evacuation, Kevin, I know this is probably details that you guys haven't worked out yet with the police department and everything, but I see the problem, not the three ways that we have out of here, but how do we get people from the communities onto those main roads? It would seem to me that it would make sense to have designated feeder roads that you would take from out of the communities onto 260 or the B-line, so that, what are you laughing about? So that people, because you're going to have somebody stationed there to direct traffic. Because if people are panicked and there's fire in this town, they're not going to stop and let people in because they want to get out. You see what I'm saying?
You stole Jim's idea, I think.
Well, that's okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm actually going to be working with a sergeant who's going to be in charge of the evacuation method that we're going to put together for Payson. It's not the fire department's job to evacuate. However, it is the fire department's job to say, you better evacuate. And then it goes to, it drops into Chief Tischer's hands, and he's in charge of that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get together with the sergeant who is actually going to be mitigating that, and I'm going to suggest that we actually have staging areas, that we bring people into a staging area, whether it's Green Valley Park, Home Depot, Walmart, the Christian school. There's a lot of areas that could be easily staged, and then systematically haul those people out, whether we're doing it in a caravan or whatever. But in doing it that way, we're going to cut down on traffic accidents and traffic snarls. And it's probably something that they have been doing tabletop-wise. I would imagine if that was what I would do. It took us 8 hours to evacuate 7,000 people from San Bernardino Mountains. And that's how we did it. We brought them to staging areas, and then we caravaned them off the mountain.
I should let me mention just a little bit and you may all know this, so forgive me if you do, but kind of the way it works, and I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, the fire command team, the ones that are running the fire, their job is to look out ahead of that fire and predict where it's going, what the fire behavior is going to be based on the weather and all the conditions and the slope, the topography, everything. They actually have people that just specialize in predicting the fire behavior. So their job is to be looking out way ahead of that fire. Even if there wasn't a town there, they're looking for places to stop the fire and ways to fight it. So what they do is, when they get to that point where they're looking out, a day, 2 days ahead, and they think that the fire is going to impact Payson, that's when they start saying, hey, we need to start planning to evacuate this and that, and they'll tell the police chief, we need to start evacuating this area. And that's when the police chief goes in and, starts going door to door and things like that. But even before the police chief gets his folks in there to go door to door, you're going to get notified on Everbridge, hey, Payson's at a Gold Nugget community is at a go situation, whatever is at a set, get ready to go, those kind of things. So the incident command team's looking out, far ahead of what the fire's actually doing. So it's a very unusual circumstance where it would catch you before they have time to give you an alert.
So you're saying, getting back to Darlene's question, we wouldn't be getting knocks on the door at 2 in the morning. You would have a couple of days lead time as to when we should evacuate, because if you got to get out at 2 in the morning, how are you going to get the town out?
Yeah, it depends. It's a very complex situation, right? And predicting, like I said, predicting what the fire does, they have specialists. That's all they do for the command team. So it's not a simple, it always goes at this rate. So yeah, it could happen that they could knock at your door at 2 in the morning and say, hey, you need to leave. That is a possibility.
Or you could get that alert on Everbridge telling you that your area is being evacuated. One thing that each and every one of us should know is that when there is a fire that can threaten Payson, we should be in the set position. It's good to be ready, but we need to be in a set position. In other words, I don't know how many of you remember the Polis fire that we had, where we actually had ashes falling on town. And I thought, I better go and look to see where this fire is, because I want to be able to get out if I have to. So that's the mindset that we all need to have. We need to be in that set position. We're ready, yes, but when we do have a fire that could threaten town, we need to be in that set before we go. In other words, your car's packed, is what I'm saying, if there's a fire that could threaten Payson. And that could be something that maybe is 30 miles away and doesn't take long. And we'll see with the sim table.
Yeah, in Baghdad, just the other was Friday, they lost 12 or 15 homes in an hour and a half, 90 minutes, it took to burn down all those homes. So, yeah, that's over on the slope of the, if you kept going up, you'd go up into Yavapai County up to Prescott. So, and that's all shrub, that's not even trees, it was all pretty much shrub. Same like with Yarnell. Doug has a question here.
When this happens, you've got CD, you've got ham, and you've got GMRS radio. Will there be any kind of an information source going out any of the radios so that we can disseminate information into our neighborhoods?
Well, the public information part of that is a key part that needs to be worked on. Definitely the whole evacuation system. That information part is key. Right now we have Everbridge, which is it's an excellent tool, but in my personal opinion, I think we need to get more information out to people to be able to make their own decisions. And like I said, there's websites out there that give you very accurate information on what the fire's doing. And I think if we can get people educated enough to be able to see if the fire's threatening Payson, I think that's a part of the key where you can make your own decision to leave early. Because, personally, for me, if you're waiting to get the knock on the door, in general circumstances, you're waiting too long. You should be activating your plan way earlier than that. I mean, there are cases where it may get, overtake the town quicker than that, and that can happen. And it happened in Paradise, obviously. Also, one of the things in Paradise was that they had a very good evacuation system that was a very rigid system, and people were told to stay where they are until they were told to evacuate. And what happened was the fire overran their system and went faster than what they expected, and then the people all tried to leave at the same time, and it didn't work out the way they thought it would. So,
Some of that was a dispatch problem. The original call came in, and it was several miles out of town, the original fire. Well, it had already spotted into town by the time they got that particular report. So that fire, simply because of what happens in California with the sundowner or the Santa Ana winds, that fire was running at probably 40 or 50 miles an hour. So it's pretty hard to predict what's going to happen in those situations. And that's what happens with the Santa Ana winds.
Okay, we have Jeff another here, and then we have Jim.
Last one, I promise.
that's not good.
I know slash disposable is one of our major challenges, and lacquer pits, limited resources. There was an announcement that a sawmill opened up in Belmont outside of Flagstaff, and they're going to accept small diameter Ponderosa for the first time anywhere in Arizona. And they're actually going to make product out of Ponderosa, the first ones that are going to do that, which is a big boon for the Firewise effort in the entire state, especially northern Arizona. Is there any way the town could communicate with them when they get ramped up to see the potential to transport small diameter Ponderosa to them? And I know they'll accept it. It was just announced.
That's on our list to discuss on Thursday. Here, Jim.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm aware of I think the log heads that are open that, it's Leugh.
I'm part of the for-profit group.
Oh, okay. Am I right?
We discuss this crap all the time. So,
Yeah.
So for the last 15 years.
But yeah, I'm aware of that sawmill just opening up, and one of the big problems here is that we're a transitional ecosystem, right? We're going from desert to Ponderosa pine, and we get everything in the middle. So we get all the manzanita and all that, the juniper and all that. So we kind of have a different ecosystem than the Ponderosa pines, and a lot of our Ponderosa pines are kind of scarce. So we can't do a lot of, we don't have the amount of small Ponderosas to get rid of, I think. But
their effort is to keep old growth. That's the focus of the entire state. And to eliminate everything, I think 6 inches or below, that counts for a lot of ours as well.
Yeah.
Okay, here's Jim, and then we're going to go out to the.
Yeah, I was just wondering that if CenturyLink went down, would that affect Everbridge, or what protection do we have so that our Everbridge will always be available to us?
Yeah, if the internet goes down and you have a cell phone, or you have a internet-based phone in your house, yeah, that it does affect that for sure. And
If you do have a regular old-fashioned landline, you can actually tie that together with Everbridge too, and that can be part of the notification process.
Okay, so I have 2 cents to put in. Okay, so
She always does.
yes, there's a couple of us who have made a business plan for our Fire Adaptive Community Committee.
And we have a steering committee of Alan's on. We just got 2 more people to join this actual steering committee. And then the 3rd Thursday of the month at 1:30 in the afternoon, we have our Firewise committee. And last time we had 20 volunteers that were there. So as we get things worked out with Chief Staub, which we're having a meeting with him and Kevin on this Thursday, there's insurance issues. Like, we would love for Jeff and my neighbor Joe and a bunch of other people that would love to do volunteering on weekends. They may have full-time jobs or whatever, or retired. They could be trained mitigation specialists and work with a team. They would also be trained evaluators, so they know, what we all expect for them to do. They could go help work on these people's homes, the ones that cannot afford it or cannot physically do it themselves. So we're working on that. We are wanting more people to be evaluators. We want people to work in the media department. Whether we get our witnesses, these are the things we're trying to work out. Whether we have our own Facebook page for Fire Adaptive Community, and then they have their own fire department one. And if we could share from their fire department Facebook page to ours and then get it out all around the town, we are going to be having events. We're going to be having demonstration areas that we're working on. We need volunteers to work booths and like 4th of July and other events that we're going to be doing. There's a lot of different kinds of things that different kind of volunteers can do depending on how they're gifted, the things that they really like to do. If you wanted to help work on a program that tracks who we've already given evaluation to and whether that ever got cleared up or, whatever, if you like Excel, there's all kinds of things that our volunteers, we got this is a 4-page business plan right here that we've been working on, that we're going to be working on again. So if you would like to volunteer in whatever way, we're going to need help for Kevin, when we get a lot of these, I don't want to call them complaints coming in, but we're going to need people to identify some people's homes. A lot of people live on rental properties and the owner's out of the state. And so we need to identify what is this address, and then we can find out who the owners are and help Kevin send out letters. We're going to have a letter that lets people know that we can evaluate the property for them, and all this kind of good stuff. There's all kinds of things people can do. So if you would like to join the effort, you are absolutely willing to tell us how you would like to fit in. So, anyhow.
The
Yeah.
local Mormon church has a number of young men out of the valley that looking for something to do. And I talked to their mission coordinator, Jim, down in the valley. And this is right up their purview. They probably have 50 to 60 able young men that would be glad to volunteer. And so when you guys get organized, if you'd like to reach out, I can steer it in that direction.
Yeah. See, there's a lot of town insurance issues. Okay, when we're going out on other people's property, if I go out there and I fall over a log that they have laying there in their jungle and break my leg or something, we need to be, a number of us already are trained volunteers for the fire department, just like the police department have their volunteers and the sheriff's department has their volunteers. We're all covered. We have to have background checks and all that, or we don't go out on people's property in the name of the fire department.
We don't go out on people's property unless we're invited.
Unless we're invited, okay? So Kevin is the only one that can send out the letters in his name and say, we would like you to get evaluated and do something here, or whatever. So anyhow, lots to do. Any other questions based on that? Okay, you want to go play with the sim table?
Yes.
I should have brought cookies, but I didn't think ahead of time.
Thank you all for having me.
All right, so come on out and we'll watch the sim table.
I was going to try to find some identification language or something. I guess maybe.
I'll get hold of you.
show you how it does it.
I'll give you my, you guys can work.
Maybe.
Come to our meetings.
I don't know what they are. What are they?
Okay, so this is, most of you saw this as you came in. This shows you the topography of the area, and you build the sand to that.
Is this actually our area or just?
It is.
That's pretty cool.
And this, I don't know why, I can get better pictures than this, but
Oh, wow.
you can see this is the airport up here.
Oh, yeah, it is. Well,
Here's-
there's my house.
Here's the town. There's Walmart. And
Yeah, whee!
going that way is north, so we got it upside down, but it's just to throw you off a little bit.
See if you pay attention. No.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, shoot, I moved it. Shouldn't have done that. I'm moving around here. Okay, so
Bye.
so this is fuel painters. I can, if I want, I can. Let's see, take that and go. Let's say we're going to do a 50% fuel reduction, and we're going to just do it right here on this side of town, which is, this is kind of where I'm doing that is kind of down by the treatment plant.
Quiet so we can hear him.
So that's that yellow line represents a 50% fuel reduction from the normal level of fuel. So I'll make it a little bit wider.
Can you give us a landmark of where something in town is?
Yeah, so right there is, I'll switch this back. And how do I get over there? Okay, so I put the line in there. We'll say we have a wind from the west at about 24 miles an hour, which is not unusual. Let's see. I think this will work. So I should be able to come over here and I can start a fire over here somewhere by clicking on it. So that's like down Doll Baby. This is Doll Baby Road down here.
Oh, okay, there you go.
That's his exit.
Yeah, so you can see the green right here. That's where the lakes are, and the sewer plant's down here a little bit farther.
That's Green Valley Park?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is 24 miles an hour right here?
Yeah, 24 miles an hour. Oops, it doesn't computer. But this is 1 hour, so that's 1 hour of the fire burning in those conditions. So it's probably, I think it has. So it has has a count of the acres. It's at 1 hour and 42 minutes. We got 91 acres burned right now.
There's a fire behind you, because the camera can't see it.
Oh.
The yellow equipment.
Now, if we were in a ready, set, go, we would be where? Set at that point?
You'd probably be on go.
Go and go, okay.
If you're on west side of 87.
Yeah, on the west side, okay.
They'd be telling you to go. But
How many hours is that?
That's 3 hours and almost 200 acres. So and then what would be happening too is you'd be getting some spot fires out in front of it like this, because the way the embers are going and the way the wind's kind of going catacorn across here. So,
Oh, man.
I mean, it's speeded up a little bit. That's 4 hours right there. Yeah, it's going up towards the airport.
Kevin, is what you're showing us without any sort of fire response? This is just
Yeah,
letting it burn
there's
without
no
any fire response?
no fire response on
Because
it.
this weekend, the fire was contained really quickly.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah,
You can kind of see, now, this one, I don't know if you can see my little finger, the little pointer here. This one here, it's bumping up. I put that fuel brake in here, so it's kind of bumping up against the fuel brake, the 50% fuel brake. That's why it's not really going that fast.
And would the embers be dropping into town too? At the
Yeah,
same time?
it could be dropping up in here, in these areas. Oops. That's
Over there, that's all Baby Road, right? Right there.
6 hours, and it's at almost 700 acres. Well, fortunately, the Forest Service has put in some fuel brakes around there too, so that'll slow it down a little bit. Let's see.
Does the fire start creating its own wind, or
Yeah.
is that unusual?
No, if it gets big, like if it was really this big of a fire, it would start probably generating a plume, and then the plumes, they'll actually act like thunderstorms. They actually will develop into thunderstorms if there's enough energy there. So they'll actually intensify the wind, like a thunderstorm does, where it sucks the wind into it, and then when they collapse, it turns around and goes the other way.
So how much time's elapsed now?
That's 9 hours, almost 10 hours, and we're at 1,300 acres.
What's the red for? Is that total burnout?
Yeah, it's just graphics to show the different
I realize the yellow is a fire in the progression, and I figured the red is a total burned out area.
Yeah, the black is more the total burned out area. Let's see here.
Where's the treatment plant?
It's down here.
Okay. I think I live like right here on Rodeo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Move forward, trees explode with fire. And then the next tree.
Let's see.
So by this time we're evacuating, right?
Oh yeah, I think most of the town would be evacuating, but you can. Yeah, probably. If you had this, I would expect so. So, like you can put an air tanker drop in here. Oops, I messed up on the bottom part. I'm trying to figure out.
Big aeroplanes won't be able to land them.
Yeah.
Payson Airfield. Helicopters can pick up water, but the bigger tankers won't be able to land there, will they? What's the length of the runway?
They actually have a single engine air tanker up there right now.
Have a what?
A single engine, it's a single engine air tanker. So they can drop water, they can land at Payson Airport. But the big tankers, you're right, they'll come from the
No,
valley.
big ones wouldn't. No, there was a big one here.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's just a picture. Okay. What happens if when the 87 is closed in both directions and the 260 is also closed at the same time? It's happened several times recently. All three roads have been, because of accidents, have been closed. How do we get out?
Yeah, I think, you know.
Then you can't get that number of people on that helicopter.
No.
Unless you bring in Chinooks. You get a lot on a Chinook.
Well, hopefully people get out before that happens, you know, and then if that does, like Alan was saying.
People have accidents. They get on the wrong side of the road. They're out high on marijuana. They should never have passed that the other day.
Yeah.
They should not be on marijuana. So too many drivers are.
You know, Alan's working with trying to have safe refuge areas in town and that kind of stuff, which is probably a good idea.
Which way is
That way. This is.
So Star Valley is toast.
This is the.
Star Valley be way over there.
This is the 87 here. There's Walmart right there. This is 260
heading out to Star Valley.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. You have to turn your head to the other side.
Yeah, I ended up saying.
Yeah, 30 lash is wet moving.
It looks right to me.
No,
But I'm always
north
upset.
is that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he's saying north is this way here on the map. Well, there's Star Valley. It's
And big it all ran to this toast.
yeah. So, then we hear about it. My daughter calls us and says, there's a fire south of here. We're driving 87.
Oh my gosh, my daughter, no, south, north.
Oh, my daughter's a firefighter at heart. She doesn't do it because she's a mother.
When we lived in Florida, she had to have some apps. Everything had to relate to her next, which was Almerton and Highway 19.
I know you can, but can you make it where it's in more real time?
It's way slower. That's 128 times. So we've done 19 hours so far.
Yeah, I know, but can you make it where it's close to real time? Because
Sure.
it really is. We did that one time. It really is because it's the entire community went up.
That's real time right there.
This is real time.
Yeah, that's real time.
How many hours has it been?
That's been 20 hours. It's almost 4,000 acres. But in real time, you know, it gives, you know, you can see where it gives you time to go in and put hand lines in, and those are lines.
So you know how the fires travel. It's awesome. That's amazing. It really is.
It's pretty cool.
So the other day when the road was closed, and there were some fires burning just south of town, did you put those in and put the conditions in and do predictions?
No, we didn't use that. This is more for like if you had a really large fire that was going on for a few days. They sometimes will use something like this. Or really what it was developed for was to train people, you know, and give them an idea how far ahead they had to be.
Okay. So the reason you didn't use it yesterday, was it yesterday before you, 2 days ago? It just wasn't big enough, you knew already?
Yeah, by the time you bring this out there, that wasn't going to be like a multiple day thing. They put it out pretty quick.
So this doesn't remain set up at the...
No, we put it all away. The sand goes in buckets.
Who builds the rings and everything?
Oh, Alan and I built.
I was watching Alan earlier in here, and I'm like, What is this thing?
Yes.
So this is just loose sand?
It's just sand.
Walnut, fresh walnut.
Okay, but I mean, if somebody stuck their finger in there, it's gonna, I don't wanna mess it up.
It's okay.
Doesn't that look like velvet fabric?
I know.
Yeah, it does.
April, you can touch it. You can touch it.
Well, I know what sand feels like.
Yes, so it's not quite like
It is tempting, isn't it? It's a little off topic, but why was the highway closed the other day? Because of smoke or because of the fire was being across the highway or trucks needed to get?
Yeah.
What's the reason?
188.
It's really dangerous to have something out there pulling cars on the highway and have people going by at 65 miles an hour. It's really super dangerous, so they don't want anybody getting run over. Plus, you know, smoke, a lot of times it causes people to crash. And that just adds another problem.
Oh, yeah.
That fire, somebody was near the 188, is that what it was?
So it was on the west side.
188 and 87. Southbound on the 87 shut down. It was strange because I was on my Harley and I'd gone up to 87 and 260 where it turns down to Cape Verde. Just going for a ride and turn around.
Is it still moving?
Yeah.
Through pine.
That dozer's really going slow though, but it gives you a good idea how long it takes to do a dozer. What's the time lapse right now? It's real time. It's on. I can put it at
7 hours. 87.
21 hours. 21 hours.
Oh,
And you were the other day for the fire.
I ran into someone because
Airplane crash.
Pretty realistic. It just, you know, but the fire, it really depends on the conditions of the day. You know, the moisture content of the fuels and that kind of thing.
Airplane landed on 87 near Home Depot.
Can we do our 50-50 and then those of you who want to leave can leave? Oh my gosh, that's spread a long ways.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
It's getting hot.
anyhow, get out your 50-50 tickets.
It's getting hot, Shirley.
Is it getting hot over there?
It's getting hot over there.
Yeah. So where did Connie go?
If you want, I'll send it to you.
Connie's
The 87
Connie's
is
getting
good.
Kevin to draw.
Hope that little sliver is me. See it right there? Hope that little sliver is me. This is where I'm
Did you get a, where are new people that want me to have a constitution?
So it went through the town like in about an hour.
It's 2 days, 2 hours right now.
But when you put the spot fires in the town, it went like that. Yeah, you're toast.
It is at like 500.
Are we in the Gulf State?